Hey everyone, thank you for joining me today. Today I want to talk to you about beans. One of the reasons why I love using dry beans instead of the canned is that you are in control of how much of the bean you leave whole. Some people like mostly whole beans. Jupiter Heights is one that comes to mind. I prefer really creamy, but sometimes just to give some variety, I will leave some of the beans whole, sometimes as much as half of the bag. The great thing about dehydrating your beans separately and not trying to make a complete and whole meal at one time is that you can always add in your meat later. You can either carry jerky, you can carry full packets, or you can dehydrate your meat in gravel form or your chicken. You can do it that way, and then that way you know your beans are going to last longer in storage and you can make them into anything you want later on. They make a great pantry staple. A lot of meals call for beans. You could do these in large quantities and store them in jugs. I didn't have any to use this time, but if you want to add more flavor, then use either vegetable stock, chicken, or beef stock when you're making your beans. Make sure that they're fat-free and low sodium. Sodium will make the beans crack open and split, and they may not even cook correctly. After your beans are done cooking, then what you're going to want to do is reserve that liquid, and then you're going to want to put them into a mixer. And if you season them here, keep in mind you're going to want to maybe even double the amount of seasoning that you would normally use, because a lot of that is going to be lost in the dehydrator. I like to do both. I like to season it once before it goes in the dehydrator, and then I add a little bit more when it comes out. Now, after it comes out of the dehydrator, what you're going to do is I use a coffee grinder. Now, you could possibly even use a blender, but you're going to want to put a wet towel over the top of your blender while you're blending it to absorb all of the dust particles that are going to be flying around. After it comes off the dehydrator, what you're going to want to do, I've gotten into the habit of doing this with everything, so I will allow it to get to room temperature while it's sitting on the dehydrator, and then I will put it in a container and stick it in the refrigerator overnight. The next day I will check to make sure that the material is still crisp. And what I'm doing is basically making sure that all of the moisture is gone. If you put it straight into a container and right directly into the refrigerator, that heat can cause moisture. So you want to make sure that it's room temperature before you put it in the refrigerator. One thing I do suggest is that before you make large quantities of any of these recipes is that you try out for yourself and decide if you like that recipe. Feel free to adjust any of the seasonings, add to, take away, make them your own, please. If you're wondering what that chili powder is that's in the recipe, I found it at the local Hispanic store.